It's been a very dark season, a dark weekend. I got a text yesterday that there was an attempt to assassinate him yesterday, and a couple of other people were badly injured or died, and a whole bunch of things happened. And it just felt so dark. There's nothing light about it. And I wanted to say right from the beginning, this is not a political sermon at all. In fact, there's no way you can tell at the end of this message how I vote. I'm not interested in using the church for politics at all, but I am interested in making sure that we shine light into a world that is dark. And we need to look at the promises of the Bible and do what we can to reflect the light of Christ into the world. Because darkness is hard on us. Who here in the winter doesn't like it when it gets dark around 4 o'clock? Yeah. We like it when the days are longer. We like it when the light is shining. When we were young, we were afraid of darkness in our bedrooms. We asked Mom if we could leave a light on somewhere. Some of us had little night lights so that we can get up in the night, we can still kind of find our way around. Human beings have terrible night vision. And the reason we have terrible night vision is because we see a big color spectrum. Women see thousands of colors, men see 8 Crayolas, but still we see a lot of colors. And the trade-off biologically is the more colors you see, the harder it is to see at night. Most of the nocturnal animals have very little color vision. And we're able to see this beautiful, colorful world that we're in. And we can tell when fruit's ripe and stuff like that. But night vision is hard for us. And it's challenging for us to live in a dark place. And when things feel dark, do you ever have times in your life where during the day, for whatever reason, your soul just starts to darken and you start to think, I'm not doing well. I'm not feeling well. I'm not reacting to things normally. There's no joy in my life right now. And there are times when darkness just sort of invades us as a culture and as a person. Well, the truth is it's much bigger than that. There are huge forces at work out there that are trying to take control of our culture. There are people who are willing to hate and kill and destroy to get their way. And they're all over the place. They're on the right wing, they're on the left wing, and they're on the technology wing. And all of these groups, there's people who really, in high technology is a good thing, basically. You hear me because I've got a microphone, that's nice. But who thinks there's people with technology, they're trying to control everything we do and follow us around. And for whatever reason, I might say, does this happen to you too? You say something, and then there's an ad for it. It just shows up right away. You think, what's going on here? I'm being targeted by all this stuff. Now, I don't want to get paranoid or anything, but I do know that somewhere there's a file on stuff I buy. And those advertisements continue to come up in front of me. And people have said, I think this is overstated, but they say that screens are as addictive as nicotine or even heroin. I have caught myself reaching for my phone without thinking I want to look at my phone. I say to myself, how did that happen? So there's good technology, and then there's forces behind technology trying to control us. There's good conservative values, and yet there's people on the far right that think it's just fine to kill people, stockpiles of weapons, all kinds of stuff, and it gets ugly. You see them in the parades. Huntington Beach, you see the angry Jesus people with their banners. They say the craziest things like Billy Graham leads to hell or something like that. I just think, you've got to be kidding. There's angry, hateful people out there. On the left wing, too, there's a whole bunch of people in progressive politics who would say, by any means necessary. If we have to crack a few eggs to make an omelet, we'll crack a few eggs. Well, we happen to be the eggs. And there are forces, symbolized by these 3 pictures up here, of people who are dead set on controlling the way we do life in North America. And I think it's time for Christians to present a 4th option, and to present it passionately, and to present it in a Christ-centered way. Because I think Jesus Christ is the hope of our culture. The worse things get, the more I say people need Jesus. We can't fix this by voting. Nothing wrong with voting. Voting might help a little bit. But we have a spiritual problem. And it can only have a spiritual solution. If this person who tried to shoot former President Trump had a living relationship with Christ, would he have been up on the building, firing at someone and killing people? No. We have a spiritual issue, and it's not going to be solved by force by any of these factions. Now, I think we need to present the Christian faith in a very assertive, loving way, because it is the way to do life that has prevailed for 2,000 years now and has been the conscience of our culture. The problem is, there's never been a time in any of our lifetimes where less people go to church, especially after COVID. There is a huge drop-off in church attendance. Even in the bigger, fancier churches, this is happening. I talk to pastors all the time, and this is a common thing. We are an exception. This church is growing. We see more people here the last few weeks than we've seen in many years. We see some exciting things happening. We're fighting against the stream here. But let me tell you, your leaders here in this church at Spirit Station, they're working really hard. This isn't coming easily. It is a big challenge to present the Christian faith as an alternative to these three dark things. And I think we need to do it, and we need to do it with confidence, because I do believe that we are going to win in the end, and the Bible guarantees it, so we may as well act like it and get out there and start preaching love, forgiveness, grace, and the virtues and values of Christianity. Would you like to raise your kids to be one of these? No, we don't raise our kids to be haters. We want them to be gathering for the Lord. We got one verse to look at today. Let's look at John 8, verse 12. John 8, verse 12. I was going to do a whole bunch of verses, but after the events of yesterday, I thought I would focus on light, because I think we need more light. And this was the verse that was planned for today, but just part of the passage. But I thought, let's focus on light. Let's read it out loud together. 1, 2, 3. Jesus spoke to the people once more and said, I am the light of the world. If you follow me, you won't have to walk in darkness, because you will have the light that leads to life. There is so much in that verse. That we will have the light that leads to life. Who wants to have that light in you? Who can tell when someone walks up when they have it? Woody had like a 150-watt bulb in him. And you could tell. I want to turn the light up in my life so that I am less susceptible to darkness in my life, and those feelings of darkness, and those feelings of depression, or just feeling like you having a really bad day and nobody likes you, one of those days. Can't get anything done, have no energy, one of those days. I want to shine light into my life so that goes away, because when you shine light on something, darkness does go away. Light is also a disinfectant. Now, I want to give these people a lot of grace because they'd never done a pandemic before, but at the beginning of the pandemic, they said, don't go to the beach and don't go to campgrounds. And I'm thinking those are the safest places to go, because solar energy is a disinfectant. And being outside is probably the best place we could be as far as that goes. And I know they meant well, but do you see what I'm saying? Sunlight is a disinfectant. And it cleans up stuff in us too. I have stuff inside of me, and so do you, that needs the light shined on what's inside. And you might be uncomfortable with that, and I might be uncomfortable with that. But the truth is, it feels really good to have the light shined on those things that don't belong there. And there's things in all of our lives that don't belong there. And we could say, well, it's a dark world out there, we want to shine light into it. Yes, we do, but we have to start with ourselves and our stuff. Is there anybody here who doesn't have any stuff that you're dealing with? We have a class in denial around the outside. We'll take care of that. We've got stuff that we need to work on the inside, and we've got a world to work on the outside. You can tell people who are bringing light into the world, they tend to be humble. Hardcore moral and ethical crusaders, have you ever noticed a few years down the road there's often a big moral failure? Because they're pointing the fingers at everyone else and not on us. True moral and ethical crusaders have a humbleness about them. They say, I'm just one beggar telling another beggar where to get food. I'm just trying to help you because I need to help myself. And we need to acknowledge the sin in us. The Bible says, if we say we have no sin, the truth is not in us. We deceive ourselves. So we have to shine the light on ourselves and disinfect some of the stuff in there. And we need to shine the light then on the culture itself. But I want to have this light that leads to life. I don't want to walk in darkness. Jesus is the light of the world. Jesus says so. Jesus says outrageous things about himself all through the Gospel of John. I'm the resurrection and the life. I am the gate to the sheep. I am the bread of life. I am the light of the world. All of these things he says about himself, which are really kind of outrageous. But what he's saying is, folks, look to me. Look to me if you want this. I have the living water. Look to me. We need to focus on Jesus. Kim picked songs today, all of which focus on Jesus, all of which focus on Jesus, because Jesus is the one we need to focus on where we get the light. Isaiah 9:2, let's read it out loud together. 1, 2, 3. The people who walk in darkness will see a great light. For those who live in a land of deep darkness, a light will shine. Who thinks we need this promise for our country? We do, because we're walking in darkness right now. When I watch the news, no matter what political stripe you're from, it feels dark. How many of you here have watched less news the last few years than you did before? Because don't watch before you go to bed, or you'd be in real trouble. There's just a lot of darkness out there, and a lot of spinning. And a lot of our side is perfect, their side's terrible. Which, if you're old and wise, you understand that's never true. There's all kinds of truth in all kinds of places. Here's some practicalities. Ask the Lord for more inner light for yourself. That may be uncomfortable. One thing I like about people in recovery is one of the steps is to take a ruthless self-inventory, which I think we need to do from time to time. Not to beat yourself up, not to say I'm junk, I'm awful, not to say I'm the worst ever, but just to say, are there things in my life I need to work on? Are there things in my life I need to improve? Benjamin Franklin was kind of an odd person, theologically pretty odd, but every year he put a whole bunch of things in his life. He wrote them down, things he needed to work on, and he spent an hour in prayer every day. Now, I won't mention that he did this naked upstairs with his windows open. He called it an air bath. But he says, I feel more vulnerable up here like this, and it's just me and God, you know? And don't picture that or you can't ever forget it, but still. Do you understand that sort of sense of transparency? Where I really want to work on these things. Samuel Johnson, who wrote the first dictionary, the great intellectual of England, always had things he was working on, writing lists. How am I doing on this? How am I doing on that? How am I working on being kinder to other people? Am I working on being more effective and wasting less time? Am I working on keeping myself healthy so that I can do the things I need to do? A self-inventory. Holy Communion is really good for that. Holy Communion, it like shines an inner light on us. Coming up to the altar rail for prayer. As Pastor Tamara said, kneeling is a sign of humbleness, a sign of submission, a sign of being open to God. Now, if you can't kneel, and there's people here who can't kneel, that's fine. Just lift up a hand or do something, like you were saying, change your posture a little bit to be more open, to be more humble. Number 2, Jesus won't join any of the agendas of darkness. Jesus is not an errand boy for any political party. Jesus is not a source of funding for any political movement. Jesus is not pushing for technology to take over our lives. Jesus is not to be co-opted for something else. And I get nervous when people are way more excited than about the person they're voting for or about their favorite football team than they are about Jesus. And it comes across really clearly. Nothing wrong with being a little excited about the person you're voting for. Nothing wrong with being excited about your sports team, unless it's the Vikings, which is me, and it just never goes well. Nothing wrong with getting excited about sports. But who knows people who are way more excited about a sports team or a celebrity or the person they're voting for than they are for Jesus, even if they say they're Christians? Oh, Jesus, by the way, on the side. But really, it's Taylor Swift. Or really, it's whoever's running for president. Or really, it's the Angels or the Dodgers or whatever. We get that way. I always wonder why people get... I love sports. I played sports in high school and college. There's nothing wrong with that. But it gets creepy sometimes. I had a guy invite me over to his house, and he transformed his living room into a Deion Sanders shrine with all Deion Sanders memorabilia. And he spoke in hushed tones when he was in there. This is my Deion Sanders room. Everything I could do to keep from saying, you need to get out and get some fresh air now. These people don't even know who you are. To be totally... People still do vigils for Michael Jackson. Years later, on his birthday, I'm thinking, he has no idea who you were. And yet you're totally devoted to this thing. We need to get our priorities in order and put Jesus first. All the time. Less screen news, more lamp of the word. Psalm 119, 105, Amy Grant sang that wonderful song. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. Wonderful Bible verse. We want more light, spend more time in the Bible. The Bible is the great illuminator. My life has gone pretty well. And it's not because of effort or discipline on my part. It's because I try as best I can to inherit the wisdom of the Bible. Because it's so much smarter than I am. You ever talk to those people, you just know right away when you're talking, they're way smarter than you? 150 watt bulb, that kind of thing. They're just really bright. That's how I feel when I'm in the Bible. I'm walking among giants. These are people still in print after 2,000 years. That's really good. To be around those people, we're standing on the shoulders of giants. Fear and worry darken our hearts. I totally understand why sometimes we succumb to fear and worry. Who thinks there's plenty to worry about if we pay attention? There's stuff going on. Financial stuff. I thought I'd paid off not my lawyer. I thought I'd paid off my dentist, lawyers, whatever. But anyways, just kidding. I thought I paid off my dentist, and then I found out there's this huge bill. And I'm going, I thought I just paid it all up. Who thought I was worried for a little while? Yeah, this is a big bill. Or you bring a plumber to your house and you think, well, this will cost a few $100s. Just add a zero to what happened. You think, wow, how did this happen? And you think, where is this going to come from? Or social worry. What are people thinking about me? Or health stuff. Getting older doesn't make you healthier and fitter automatically. You really have to work on things, and even so, it's barely keeping up sometimes. And doctoring can turn into a part-time job after a while. Fear and worry darken our hearts. We have to fight against it constantly. I'm very grateful to have a wife who always points me out. She says, you're starting to circle the drain. Pay attention and don't go there. There are times we need to set aside work. Who here's ever had a bad year? If you haven't, you will. It's coming. Whoever says at the end of a bad year, what got me through this was the worry. What got me through this was fear. No, it really doesn't help. Do we have to pay attention to real threats? Yes, we do. But who thinks that faith is better than fear when we face these things? Who thinks that's a struggle? It's not easy. We need the help of our Christian brothers and sisters here to help us do that. Help make that work. Conspiracies are hatched in darkness. Now, sometimes there's stuff going on that we don't know about, and there are people trying to do stuff. I even mentioned here that there's tech people trying to monitor everything we buy and do. I get that. There are things out there that are being decided that we're not part of. I get that. But who thinks that conspiracies can draw people into darkness? Probably the guy who shot at Trump. I don't know, but my guess he was mixed up in some kind of thing that wasn't all light. There's darkness in a lot of conspiracies. I was so blessed to have a radio show, KBRT, AM 740. This is the bottom line. I did this for quite a while. I interviewed people who run this country. They're not that smart. They're really not. They're good at getting elected. That's their gift. They're able to get your vote. I was shocked by how little they knew about anything else. The idea that they're all sitting in some secret room planning things, these are not bright people. And anytime I see something go wrong in culture, I can think conspiracy or incompetence. It's usually incompetence. It just is. Some of you know really important people, and you wonder, how in the world did that person get to be important and you didn't? Really, most conspiracies, and there are probably some that are true, but most of them are not, and people get sucked into them, and it sucks us into dark thinking. And it tends to happen at the extremes of the political spectrum. Beware. I get emails about conspiracies every day. Pastor, did you know that Oprah Winfrey is trying to take over the country? And I was right back, I'm sure God is really worried. I created this world and I've shepherded these people all this time, but now I will be unemployed because Oprah will be in charge. I don't get that stuff. So be careful of conspiracies. They lead often to darkness. Sharing your light increases your inner brightness. The more you share brightness with others, the brighter your light will shine. You don't give it away by shining it on others. Wendy and I were putting our kayak in the water at Los Alamitos Bay yesterday, and this guy comes walking up, and he was just a regular guy, just, putting his boat in. You folks have a wonderful day. And I was happy for an hour. You can lift the spirits of people around you, and guess what? I bet you he felt good after doing that, because he saw us smile, and he thought, this is contagious, this is working. And I have to say that stuff like that costs you nothing. That's why I said to Wendy, this cost him nothing to do this. He's walking along, we're walking along, and have a wonderful day. Your light is way more influential than you think. When you shine your light on other people and bring light into a dark conversation, you make a bigger difference than you think. There's 4 or 5 times in my life where people have spoken light into my life when I needed it the most. And they probably don't even remember it. It probably was just the most common thing of encouragement to share with someone. I will never forget those 4 or 5 times. And you can be that person for someone this week. Let me give you a tip. When you're complimenting someone or encouraging someone, be as specific as possible. The more specific your encouragement is, the more it will land. If it's just general, you're great and I like you. Well, so what? What does that mean? I really love the way you did this at work because it made a really big difference for these people. That's specific. You do that with someone else, they'll remember it the rest of their lives. You can shine light into people's lives that keeps on shining. And we all know where that light comes from. It comes from the Lord. Let's read this out loud together. John 1, 4 through 5. 1, 2, 3. The Word gave life to everything that was created, and his life brought light to everyone. The Word, that's Jesus, gave light to everything that was created and brought light to everyone. The light shines in the dark. Let's do this one together too. 1, 2, 3. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness can never extinguish it. This is a promise from the Bible. The light can't be extinguished. And the light, your little light, has more effect on people than you think. The Vikings, I mentioned them twice in one sermon, used to play in the Metrodome, Minneapolis. The Metrodome caved in so many times they finally tore it down. But he was one of the maintenance people at the Metrodome. And he tried this once. All the lights were off in the middle of the night, and he had his friend at the very top of the stands, and he lit a candle at the bottom at the other corner. You could see it from every seat in the stadium. Your light can make a big difference. So be generous with your light. Be gracious with your light. Be life-giving with your light. Reverse the curse. I mentioned earlier the curse of churches emptying out. I am absolutely convinced that this church is going to reverse the curse. We had a huge crowd on Friday night. And I have to give a hand to the volunteers who put this thing together. They did a fantastic job. And we invited the community into our fellowship hall. And I believe with all my heart that all those chairs in the back are going to be put out here in God's good time, and people are going to be sitting in all of them. And we're going to seek the Lord together. And that light's going to shine like a lighthouse to the whole neighborhood. This church is not just here to keep the property. We're going to keep the property with God's help. But we're here to do his mission. We're here to lead people into the light. There are people within walking distance of this place right now who are sitting in deep darkness. There are people within walking distance here who are contemplating suicide. There are children within walking distance of here who are getting abused this week. There's a lot of darkness around us, and we need to be the ones who bring the light. We need to reverse the curse. Shrinking churches are not inevitable. Growing churches, with the Lord's help, and it takes work. We've got to invite people into the light. Who thinks that's easy to do and not awkward? It comes across sometimes as I've got light and you don't. We have to find ways of inviting people into the light that they can hear. We have to give the world a vitalized Christian alternative to the people who are very fired up about taking over. We need to give a fourth option, and that's to put Jesus first and create community around his teaching, his love, and his light. A vitalized Christian alternative. We should be more inspired by the light of Jesus Christ than we are troubled by the surrounding darkness. Now, I'm troubled by the surrounding darkness. I was really troubled when I went to bed last night. But we need to be more inspired by Christ's light than troubled by the surrounding darkness. I want to invite the worship team up. One more Bible passage. I had to weed these out because there's like 12 zillion Bible passages on light. In fact, you should just type in light in your Bible thing and just see how many wonderful things there are. Ephesians 5:8. Let's read this together. 1, 2, 3. For once you were full of darkness, but now you have light from the Lord. So live as people of light. The first thing God ever said was, let there be light. Brought light into the darkness, into the void. Please repeat after me. You got a little more than that. You guys, people are excited about Taylor Swift, but not, let there be light. Let there be light, Lord, within us, through us, And the only source of pure light in this world is your Son.